Have you ever wondered what does it take to be an executive leader of a big multinational company? What are the skills and leadership qualities that those leaders have that makes them qualified for that role in first place? What are the decisions that they might have taken in their early career? And most importantly, can this leadership style and skill be adapted and learned for ourselves? Well, the good news is that it's not that complicated. Today, I'm in conversation with Erica Lockheimer, who is the VP of Engineering at LinkedIn, and she gives us a master class on leadership. If you have aspirations to be a successful leader in your career, you have to watch this episode. Erica talks about how to have a growth mindset in our day-to-day life so that we can be a successful and an effective leader in our roles. One of the biggest traits of a successful leader is that they are fully invested in making sure that their subordinates and their peers are successful. They make sure that they set them up for success. They make sure that they take the entire team to the finish line. And today, Erica, I can 100% vouch that quality in you. This is our third attempt recording this show. This is our this is our third attempt. We had technical difficulties in the first two episodes, but you still believed in me. You still stuck together. You were still there, investing every single thing. And every time we failed, you were like, "It's okay. We'll do it again. We'll do it again. No, don't worry." And firstly, I think I just want to express my heartfelt gratitude towards you. That thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this. And I think it is just amazing and inspiring at the same time on how we are able to pull this off.
You're welcome, and this is going to work. I have faith that it's going to happen, but sometimes you can't plan failures or mishaps, and I think the best thing that we can do is continue forward, and that's what I want to do with you. So this is going to happen. I feel confident.
Absolutely, and I as they say, keep the faith, and we'll keep the faith, and we'll make sure things go good. But Erica, you are currently a VP of Engineering at LinkedIn Learning. You are a biggest supporter and proponent of women in tech. You are mentor to hundreds, if not thousands, of boys and girls out there. But most importantly, a person who is super energetic and a wonderful heart. So I think I am just extremely flabbergasted to have you on the show and just talk to you about a very important topic, and that is how to have a growth mindset. This term we talk a lot about in entrepreneurship, in our corporate world, that, oh, you should have a growth mindset, you should do this, you should do that. But I don't think people are clear exactly. Like if people have goals or ambitions like becoming a VP of, say, a Fortune 500 company, how should they go about doing that? And that is what we want to learn from you. And hopefully at the end of the interview, we make it inspiring for people that, it's not that complicated if you want to adapt that.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. And I think all of us are really trying to figure that out, to be honest. And so a growth mindset to me is really this concept of always be learning, right? Any role that you're in now and that you want to go to the next level or learn a new skill, that is a growth mindset where it's like, I know I don't know that skill. I know I haven't been there before or led a team like that before or, delivered or built something like that before. And it's about trying. It's about learning in that moment and realizing that, you may not be great at it, and realizing that it's okay that that you may fail. Actually, there's a quote that I've been using quite a bit for myself lately, and that's by Nelson Mandela, which is like, you never lose. You either win or you learn. And that is like a mindset, whether, I'm trying something for the first time or that's or and I fail, or guess what, that's going to be a learning opportunity, and it's okay, and you're always going to get something out of it. So I think having a growth mindset is about progressing for yourself of where you want to go. You're your individual self, and those things are different. That is your path. But I also think it's a growth mindset that also can be applied to others. And sometimes you realize that, whether you're mentoring someone, how do you help them in that moment and have a growth mindset? I think sometimes we all don't have the same patience. We're hungry for satisfaction really quickly. And so you want instant results, right? So I think having a growth mindset is really a journey. And being in the industry for over 20 plus years, I can tell you that I still am growing. I'm still am learning. I don't have it figured out, because the idea is you're in a new place that you weren't before, and you haven't perfected. So I think it's a natural thing, and I think people should embrace it more, and rather than be scared about it.
Excellent. I think the way you explained it, and the fact that you just told, right, that you never lose. It's about you're learning something, you're going in the right direction, and you're making sure that you're progressing. I think that is the important takeaway from that explanation that you gave. So now, Erica, it is no surprise that so many people look up to you for the way you lead teams, the way you interact with teams, people. And I think there are so many people who just aspire to have a career trajectory the way you have for yourself. If I have to ask you, do you have like a 1 year, 5 year, or a 10 year plan like when you started off early in your career?
Absolutely not. And
Okay.
and I still don't. But everybody's strategy is different. So I think the most important thing that I would say is stay true to the strategy that works for you. For me, I'm not the type of person I need to be this in 1 year or this in 5 years. I've always had the same mentality that I wanted to make sure that I feel like I'm thriving. I'm learning something new, a place where I haven't been before. And then I'm working at the end of the day with people that I enjoy working with. And then also that I'm just making an impact in the world. Those are the things that are important to me. I actually got asked this question just the other day from leadership of like, Erica, do you have a 5-year plan? I'm like, no. I mean, do I have aspirations that do I want to, possibly run a company at the end of the day? But it's not like, oh my gosh, this is what has to happen. I feel all these things that I'm doing now, my current job and what I've done in my previous job, is things that will line up to where I eventually want to be. So I look at them as experiences. Now, I'll be honest, in my early career, I was just saying yes to any opportunity that would come my way because I wasn't really clear on what I wanted to learn. Whereas now I'm definitely more intentional. Like, I want to learn this. Right. Okay. The reason I did the learning business is I wanted to learn how to run a business. I wanted to have a P&L. So I wanted to learn that skill. But is that like, oh, my 5-year plan? No, it's more. So I would focus on the skill. And then again, the passion. And to me, it's all about people. I stay at LinkedIn and where I'm at today because I love the people that I work with. I truly, truly do. And when you have a team that you work with and you're driving towards the same mission and you have accomplished results, that feels great. And so I think figure out what your triggers are, what makes you happy, not what makes other people happy or what you're told should make you happy. I think you have to figure out what it is for you, and then drive towards that.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I like how there is one important key statement that you made, that it is important to be intentional in life. It is important to filter out some things that are good for you, that are bad for you, and focus on things that are good for you. And I'm assuming that strategy is what really worked out. So there is this aspiration, there is this main goal that we have, that we want to go in that direction. But are we doing something like XYZ? Oh, I'm supposed to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, do this in order to make sure I'm like a CEO. That is probably not how it works, is what I understand. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay. So probably a little philosophical question. What does this sentence say to you? Like, being at the right place at the right time, or do you believe in luck?
It's hard because I actually have had this debate with my husband quite a bit. He's like, you've earned everything you have, right? I believe that there is luck and you're at the right place at the right time sometimes.
Okay.
But I do believe that, there's work on your side that is definitely required. We talked about the intentionality
Yes.
part, right? I think they go hand in hand together. I think about some of the opportunities that I've had, even throughout my career. I think about, I planted seeds, like I want to do X, right? It may not happen to me now, but at least I'm intentional where people know where I want to go. But I'm making all this other progress. I'm making sure that I'm doing great at my job. I'm thinking about how I'm innovating on the product, having a bigger impact on the business. And then that opportunity may come up later, right? And you could say, is that at the right time? Is that luck? There's so many things that have to happen for that opportunity to become available, right? So I think it's a little bit of both. And so I think that's why you surround yourself with the right people, with the right environment, all the things that kind of check your check boxes. So then you can have more of that ideal outcome, right? If you're at a company where you feel that you're not invested in, you feel that someone doesn't have your back, or you're not getting some of those smaller opportunities that could, lead you to those larger opportunities, then I would say you're definitely at the wrong place at the wrong time, right? So, and there's some intentionality there, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think you have to figure out, are you setting yourself up for success, which means the people around you, which means the environment that you're in. But yeah, there's definitely a little luck in there that I can't explain sometimes.
No, and I cannot agree with that statement more. How the importance of planting seeds. And I usually repeat this and I say it to a lot of my friends and colleagues that there are two things. One are the active benefits and another is the passive benefit. Like, what are some add-ons that you're going to get in your life, some value adds that you didn't even anticipate. You didn't even know what is going to happen. Like a random example, I didn't know that I will be much fitter by getting a dog. But now that I have a pet, the amount of walks, the amount of exercises, the amount of dedication, now I have a schedule. And there are so many things which I don't think we anticipate that when we are doing something. So the planting of seed, that is the term which is just, you hit the nail right in the head. So
yeah, and I agree with you on the dog aspect too. I have two dogs. If I don't walk them every single morning, they go crazy. But you know what? The benefit is not only you feel more healthy, but I use that as my think time.
Correct.
That is my time to think about my day, my solitude, my mental health. There's so many other benefits that rise from that, and that you would have never foreseen. But
yes,
what the beauty in it.
but we have to plant the seed in
Yes,
order to
you do.
in order
You have to make a move. You have to have some intentionality.
Lovely, lovely. Erica, I know you interviewed our LinkedIn executive chairman, Jeff Weiner, our ex-CEO. Hopefully I get to interview him someday, but
why not? It doesn't hurt to ask.
I know, but there's a beautiful question that you asked him, and it was very simple yet I would say deep. And that question was that, Jeff, what makes a great leader? Erica, if I have to ask you that same question, what makes a great leader? What would you say?
I bring up a couple points. One is, for me, again, I would say it's all about the people. It's about trust. One of the first things I do is I make sure that I have good relationships and that people trust me and I trust them. And that takes time to build. And so that's the first thing that I think you want to do as a great leader, to make sure that that's established. Because if you don't do that, that's when things that come up unexpected, or you may hear side comments or changing requirements or whatever, you may interpret those things as, oh, so went behind my back to explain some of these requirements without involving me, and I was out of the loop. But if you have a level of trust, you're like, oh, you know what, they must not be aware that I'm part of this, or they must have forgot. And your perspective changes about that individual when you have that trust that's created. So trust and building those relationships are my number one thing. I would say the next thing is impact. Where if you got to have impact at the end of the day. You can't be like, I have a great leader, I built relationships, but if you're not making an impact on the business and you don't understand what the goal is, what the mission, what the vision, and you're not driving those outcomes, to me, that you're that's failure, right? So I think you have to make sure that you know what business outcomes and impact that you're trying to make. And at the end of the day, not only are you having these individual aspects of relationships, but you need to have a team, right? I am only as good as my team. In a lot of ways, I say, I'm the manager, Erica, you lead the team. I actually work for my team, right? It's not about me leading, it's not about me telling them what to do. It's really about the influence. So if I can tell them that, hey, this is where we want to go, this is how we drive the business, and they trust me, then we're all humming along in the right direction, and we'll be able to do it together. But you're only as good as your team, and you need your team there to make all those other things possible. So I would summarize it in those 3 points.
Beautiful. So have trust, and trust is absolutely so important, because it is like one of the key factors that if no one is going to trust you, I don't think team or your impact, like none of this will fall in place if you don't start with something basic, right? And one thing which I don't know if you what are your thoughts on it? Many a times people associate leadership with titles, that maybe you're a manager, so you are automatically a leader, but I don't think it is necessary to go at a certain. You can be an intern and still be a leader in what you are doing. What do you think of that?
100% agree with you. I am so big on let's cut through the hierarchy.
Yeah.
I think at every single level of the organization, you're a leader. Okay. Right? You're a leader of your domain. And so whether you're an intern just starting out, or you're an executive, right? You are a leader in your role. And we need to be able to respect people at every single level of the organization. Just because you're a VPO, you deserve more respect than someone that's a different level. No, that's absolutely ridiculous. If anything, I trust a lot of the people that are in the trenches closer to the actual code that's doing the work of understanding how it actually works. Totally. And so some things that I tend to do with my team is, I'll give you a concrete example. I have tech sharings. I have about 2 of them every single week. And I present, it's not about me critiquing what you're building. It's more like, let's share what we're building, where we're headed, or maybe some findings that you've had. And the people that I want to present are not the managers or the most senior people in the team. I want whoever worked on it, whether you're an intern or you're a software engineer at first line. And I want to hear from you. And that does a couple of things for me. One is, I really know what's going on, right? They're the closest to it. One is, I'm also building that relationship and that trust with them. And then you're breaking down the hierarchy altogether across the team. It's like, I don't want anybody to feel, I know that there is still I'm presenting to the executive team, and the stakes are higher mentally. I do that, right, with my leadership team, but and I feel that way. But you try and break it down as much as possible, because then you're allowing that transparency for people to really share how they feel and really tell you exactly what's going on in the organization. Because imagine if people are too scared or feel inferior to really tell you what's going on, you're going to fail as a leader. So if anything, you want to have as much transparency, you want to have as much connection with the team. So I create these forums. So number one, I'm educated. And number two, I start to build those relationships, and I'm closer to the organization, so I can make better decisions and I can support the team. So I'm a big fan on breaking down the hierarchy. I think use the voice that you've earned in your role, because you've earned it, and that is your space, that is your domain. So
lovely, and that is a wonderful statement, and hopefully this is an inspiration to many people listening out there or watching this, that you don't have to be at a certain position in order to be a leader. Excellent. So I want to, it's like, leadership and growth, they go hand in hand. You have to, I am making sure that we're talking more on leadership, because that is what we are sculpting here. So one question that I had was a leadership style. Now, leadership styles, I feel, have greatly evolved over decades. When I talk of like 70s, 80s, I think the leadership style was more bossy, less vulnerable, don't show weaknesses, have an image. You're not supposed to do that. Be rude and it's okay, and people will perceive you as a strong leader. I feel that has changed over time. Like at the moment when I see you, when I see Jeff Weiner or Satya, like all other leadership, I feel that leadership has become more compassionate, more empathetic, more learning. That okay, teach me right now. You told like it'll be good for you. So, uh, what is your leadership style, and what do you think of these two different leadership styles in general?
So it's really easy. The way you just were describing that type of leader, I don't know who it was, but I would never want to work for them. I mean, you think about, I also have received a lot of great advice from some other leaders, even with the company, like be the manager that you want to work for.
Yes.
Right. And
Yes.
so I think about, what do I want? What kind of relationship do I want with my leader? Who do I want to follow? And what does that feel like?
Mm-hmm.
So I put that in, put myself in their shoes, and try and replicate that. So my leadership style is, I definitely am more, raw. I would say I
Yeah.
really say what's on my mind. And I, with all due respect, and that could be, hey, that was some really, forward feedback where it may have felt, a little bit like, but you know what, I was direct. It was direct feedback. And
Mm.
and sometimes, you need to hear that.
Need that. Yes.
And then the other things is like, guess what? I'm going to show you some of my vulnerabilities. I'm not perfect. I
Mm-hmm.
make mistakes. And so I think admitting those when you do, and taking full ownership of it, and sharing that with the team is so important, because
Mm.
it makes you human, and it makes you realize that, other people will realize like, oh, wow, they make mistakes just as much as I do. You try to limit them, of course, and learn from them, but we are not perfect. And
Yes.
especially when we go into territory where we've never, been, you're going to make mistakes. It's not
Yes.
going to be perfect. And so I think the more that we can admit that, then I think we're all going to learn together. That's why there's some things that I do at work quite a bit, is postmortems, right? Let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about what went wrong. It's not about attacking the person. It's really about attacking the problem,
The
right?
problem.
How
Yes.
can, and when there's one bug, there is many. And
Yes.
so it's not one person, and it's not one thing. And then you realize like, how can we make something that's better and
Mm.
learn from this experience? So I think vulnerability uh, is really, really key. And I think as a leader in your role, not that you have to be of an entire organization, the more that you can show that, the better. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
then it helps other people learn, how to do that themselves, and also ask for help. I remember early on in my career, I was so scared to ask for help, because if I asked for help, that showed that I didn't know
Mm.
I didn't know it,
Yeah.
right? And I think I should know it, right? And so it can be very intimidating. But then
Yes.
you start
Yes.
realizing a lot of the times, you know what? I found out when I raised my hand, I'm like, I'm a little confused on this. I find out, guess what? 10 other people felt the same way. And they're like, thank you for saying that,
Yes.
right? Or I need clarity on this. Or guess what? This plan doesn't really make sense. Let me seek to understand. And so you realize it happens more often than you think.
Then
So setting an example is key.
beautiful. Well said, Erica. And I think I like how all your answers are somewhere just connecting the dots in this entire interview. That it's okay to be vulnerable. People will get more trust. You have to be transparent. You have to show that side. And now, the most important factor that you mentioned is about asking for help. We know we are not going to crack all this alone. We are going to require a team. We are going to require people who are going to trust us. So, the next question that I wanted to ask you was more on mentorship. And I know you are big on allyship, mentorship, investing in other people. So, I, I think a simple question: how does one go about finding a mentor for themselves?
It's a question that I get asked quite a bit. And then also, Erica, will you be my mentor? I'll be honest that, I wish I could scale. I wish, all of, there's a whole bunch of me so I can help and I can say yes to everyone. But one thing that I've realized over time, is, asking, will you be my mentor? I mean, that's really almost like asking for a commitment, a marriage, a relationship, right? It's like, I don't even know how well this is going to work, right?
Yeah.
So what I like to do is a couple of things. One is call them mentor moments. And so if you can say, I'm working on this challenge, Erica, can we have a cup of coffee? I'd love to get your advice on this, and let's have a mentor moment. I think I'd rather call them that than have a full commitment. And then when you do periodic check-ins and Slack, Teams, email, phone calls, and then if you meet again. So it's more of an organic relationship. And then also it helps you scale. So I have a lot of mentor moments with all sorts of different people inside the company and outside the company. So that's one way that I think you build a larger community in that aspect. And also you get to learn from different people. So another aspect is I personally don't have one mentor. I have a board of directors of mentors, right? So, and that's the way I position it, where I like to go to, Chris for this, or Maria for this, or Ya for this, right? That is what I get out of them, because I like that they're leading in this way and I want to learn from them in that way. Or another thing that I will do is I will have a similar problem, but I'll ask all three of them or four of them or five of them their perspective, right? And sometimes you get very different answers. Sometimes you get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then you get your answer all together. So I think having that board of director of mentors is key. And then also having those mentor moments. So that's the way I would look at it, of how you can actually scale and give back. And I, like I mentioned, mentor all sorts of different levels of the organization. Even I had a conversation, it was a fun one, from my old CEO from a couple companies ago. He reached out and his daughter's decided to be a computer science major. He's like, hey, lovely. Do you mind? Yeah, I'm super excited. Another woman in tech. I'm like, yeah. So, but he's like, hey, would you talk to my daughter? And I was like, yes, of course. So it's like her first year into college and declaring her major. I get so much out of those moments, because one, it just kind of takes you back.
Yes.
Two, you're helping in that moment. And three, I'm a leader. I lead all sorts of different people at all sorts of different levels. So it helps me be a better leader, because I understand different things that people are going through. And so I look at it, it's a two-way street. You get just as much out of it. And so I tend to say yes to a lot of mentor moments.
Wonderful. And I think mentor moments, or I think take mentorship as more of problem-based or transaction-based. It is not necessarily that one person will be knowledgeable in something else. And you can take perspectives, you can make sure that you gather as much information, and then you take the decision for yourself. I think that is the one key takeaway from your statement. Lovely. I know you mentioned women in tech, and
hard not to.
It is this interview is incomplete without mentioning Erica and women in tech, and that is just a fabulous involvement that you have, the commitment and your passion and dedication that you have shown towards women in tech, encouraging girls out there to make sure that they get involved in tech. There is more diversity with respect to gender. There are more perspectives. So a question that I had for you is that why do you think women in tech is important? What is the underlying why here?
Yeah, the underlying why, it wasn't that I thought, hey, this is an important thing. I need to lead it and put a lot of time into it. If I think about how I organically started being more of an advocate for this is, and so there's a product perspective and there's a personal perspective. So on the personal perspective, I love my profession. I love building. I'm an engineer. And when you start practicing and you start being at a company and you start looking around the room and you start looking at the team, and when you feel isolated, when you feel different, when you feel your voice is maybe not as heard, it's very, there's tons of studies. That's why people leave technology, right? Especially women, because it doesn't feel inclusive. And I think from those experiences, you start branching out to mentor moments of other women and saying like, hey, do you feel this way? And you start realizing, yes, they feel the same way. And then I've even branched out farther and, talk to men, and they're like, wow, I didn't know I did this, or I didn't know that you felt not inclusive. And no one means to be it's malicious or it's intentional. It's just, that's why they say, there's these biases, and biases can be blind, and you don't know. So I think a lot of it was personal at first, where I started just creating that allyship around me, because I wanted to have a better experience at work, and I wanted to build with people and just thrive. So that was the first part. And then, so I got into mentorship, and it grew from there organically. The second part is that I started realizing how much it shows up in the products that you build. You start seeing these biases in the products that you build, that, wow, now, if you had all diverse perspectives or diversity of thought in some of the design thinking of this product, maybe it might look different. And then when you think about AI, algorithms that are built, and if that is not built by a diverse team, imagine the biases that can be created in those algorithms, and then trying to, reverse them. It can take, if not, decades to reverse, because they built and they feed off of each other. And there's many aspects of it that I think about. I'll take different examples that, at LinkedIn, of the way that we think about it. I look at our content for the LinkedIn Learning. Like, do we have diversity of authors, right? I'm a learner. I want to learn from all sorts of different people, right? And so I want to make sure that resonates. And then the recommendations that you show me, are they diverse, right? So all these things are built. If you think about our LinkedIn Recruiter product, one thing that we did, which I thought was amazing, is, we help people hire talent. And they go through, say there's 100 engineers, but the entire population of results that we have after you paginate, is maybe 60% men, 40% women. Well, that first page that you show on those results to people that are hiring, why shouldn't that be equal representation of 60-40? Or that first page is going to be all men. And that's how it was. You pay attention to these things, and you start building differently. And then when you have people that feel differently, think differently, guess what? They're going to notice it really quick. I'm going to notice it really quick, right? And so when you have those perspectives, then you start getting the innovation within the product. And so I think you will build better products. You'll build a better company. You'll have better financial outcomes. There's tons of studies out there where this is true. It's just a fact.
Beautiful. And as you mentioned, right, there are like these small changes and tweaks that we need to make sure that the bigger picture will fall in place automatically. So, Erica, coming to the last segment of this interview, this show is called It's Not That Complicated. And the whole idea of the show is to make it inspiring for people. We have to make it actionable so that they can start doing something today. So, Erica, if I have to ask you, to wrap it up, what are some 3 CTAs, some 3 call to actions that you would recommend to our viewers if they want to start implementing a growth mindset in their day-to-day lives and become a better leader? What would that be?
Yeah, so I would say I would first start off with one of the first things that I mentioned, which is be a leader in your role. And so, I'll say it again. It's one of my favorite sayings is like, use the voice that you have earned. Don't lose sight of the position that you have, because you've owned it. You need to use it. You need to have your voice, and you need to have a seat at the table. So make sure that you do that. I would say the next thing is make sure that you have acts of inclusion, right? It's not about you all the time. I think sometimes we're like, it's my career, this is what I'm doing. It's really about the team and around you and what you're trying to build. And so when people think of you, that you're not just in it for yourself, you're really about for the greater good of an outcome or impact of something. I think that shines through. So really acts of inclusion and making sure that you're doing those things, because again, people will see through it right away. And to be honest, it's not the right outcome of what you want and what I think success is at the end of the day. And then I would say the third thing is I would go back to the mentorship or some community, like be part of something that's bigger than yourself. So not only act, but be part of something that's bigger. So maybe find something that you're passionate about and be part of that, because I think you'll learn with people in that space, and it will just bring a little bit new light to some of your passion. So I'm just really big on community and being surrounded with some like-minded people to get some stuff done. So yeah.
Very well said, Erica. And thank you so much. It was such an honor talking to you today.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you for having me on again. So it's super fun.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for watching this episode, guys. If you know someone who wants to be a great leader in their role, please share this episode with them and help them out. And while you're here, why don't you press that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up? Thank you.